Hello, welcome back to another time capsule musing. I'm your host Jason, and these are going to be kind of like my thoughts, a little review. There might be some spoilers in there if you haven't seen it. I'm going to be talking about the Masters of the Universe Revelations series. I'll put up a picture so you know which series I'm talking about, because there's like two new He-Man and Masters of the Universe series. It's the one geared towards adults by Kevin Smith. It's my wife's alarm going off. But anyways, this was geared towards adults, and I think it was portrayed. A lot of people on the news about it thought it was going to be a sequel to the original Filmation version of He-Man. It's not. It's kind of like a retelling, about it. It has kind of like nods to the 2000 animated cartoon and the original. And it doesn't. He-Man's not per se the main character in it. It kind of follows Teela and Andra. It's like her trainee, and it takes little twists and nods, like Scareglows, like in the underworld, and he plays more of a part in it. And in the past, Scareglow was only like seen in a mini comic from the 80s, and then they kind of like made him a bigger character. And Pre-Eternia, instead of like was going to be a sequel to the original version of He-Man, like the toy line kind of went that way with the Powers of Grayskull. They made it like kind of like a Valhalla type vibe to it, like a place where heroes, like warriors that died a heroic death, went in the afterlife. That's what they made Pre-Eternia, and that's where like all the other wielders of the Power Sword went when they died a warrior's death. That's where they went. And here's a spoiler: He-Man, in the first part of the miniseries, the first 5 episodes, he was killed by Skeletor, and he was there. And then they start losing magic in their little world, and so they go on like a little adventure to go to the underworld and get one half of the Power Sword that somehow it ended up there when it got split in half by what Skeletor did. It got split in half, and the other half was in Pre-Eternia, and they needed to like put the two pieces back together, so they enlisted the help of Hero. Roboto sacrificed himself. He died, like a robot died. Can't really die, like he just ceased to exist. Orko was killed. Mossman was killed. A lot of people were killed in it. In the second part of the series, they showed that He-Man called down the power. You can call it down without the sword, and the sword kind of like they hinted that it's more like a conduit to kind of control the power. It became almost like Incredible Hulk He-Man. It was kind of different. Instead of like Savage He-Man being like the first version of He-Man in the mini comics, because it wasn't Prince Adam till later on. So I mean, there's like a lot of different little things that go on in it. And Skeletor gets the sword, and he kind of has like the symbol, like the M looking H, like that's on Battle Armor He-Man, the toy from back in the day. And he has like that little symbol like on him when he becomes Skelegod type, type thing. So there's a lot of different things going on in it, little twists. Some of it I liked. Some of it, was like, okay, well, whatever. Well, in the battle when Savage He-Man, before he called down the power, Prince Adam called down the power because he was resurrected. Fisto and Clampchamp both were killed. Well, they turned evil, and then they were killed. So Fisto's a lot of people's like a fan favorite, and they killed him off. He got an action figure out of it that's based off of the Masterverse Revelations, but still they killed him off. And there's some weird techno worship thing going on with Triclops in there. I wasn't really a big fan of that. It's different. He was recruiting people to do it. And before that, Skeletor, he came back because like a piece of his essence, kind of almost like Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter, was in Evil Lynn's little wand, and then he came out and killed He-Man again, or what they thought was going to kill He-Man again, and he was able to get healed by Teela, who was part sorceress, because she was the daughter of the sorceress. And then, they've always hinted, like, is in the past, was Fisto the one that was Teela's dad, or was it Man-at-Arms? Because, he always knew the secret. Well, it ends up being Man-at-Arms in this version of He-Man, was Teela's dad. And that's why he raised her. It wasn't just like, an uncle raising her. Also, the two halves of the Power Sword, there was like a nod to that. Back to the old 80s toys, if you had Skeletor and He-Man, you could, they were like only half a sword, you put them together and it made the whole sword. In the cartoon, that never happened in the 80s, but the toys were that way, and the mini comics from the 80s were like that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different like little things they put in there. Also, the 2000 series, He-Man's sword was way different in that. It's like called the Techno Power Sword. Man-at-Arms made it for him to harness it, but they never put that in the cartoon. And Skeletor actually had two swords that broke apart, the action figure and then also on the show. And they were going to put that story in, but they didn't have time, or they cut it down. And he actually had the Power Sword, Skeletor did, but he never turned into Skele-God like he did on the Masterverse version. I don't know. I mean, it was pretty good. Now, the end of it, another spoiler, big spoiler, is Skeletor's, goes back to his lair, Snake Mountain. Triclops is still there with his techno people, and they start injecting the techno virus into him. And then you see the Horde symbol pop up like a little hologram thing. So it's like a teaser. If there's a part 2, more than likely Hordex going to come back, or Horde Prime, like Hordex boss, or they're going to kind of go with that story and like twist it, make it their own. But I don't know with how well the series was received, if it'll go that way, if they will decide to make a second season, because I don't think it did as well as they wanted it to, because of how it was portrayed as being a spin-off, a sequel. Not, it was a spin-off, but it was portrayed as being a sequel to the original He-Man, and it was not. The Andra, I believe is her name, she becomes the new Man-at-Arms. Teela becomes a sorceress at the end. Evil Lynn calls upon the power of He-Man too at one point and becomes like something really scary looking. She looks more man than woman, like really scary. And speaking of that, you might notice my hairstyle is very reminiscent of Teela, except for she's got way more muscles than I do. Yeah, that's kind of scary too. Like, they portrayed all the females as more mannish, I guess. In real life, if they were as strong as they were in the original series, they would have more muscles. They'd be almost like bodybuilders, female bodybuilders, and that's kind of like what Evil Lynn definitely looked like. Very, very mannish. Almost like their chins were, almost too mannishly drawn also. Yeah.
They have penises. Put it in.
I'll probably cut that part out.
I don't know.
Amber, no. No. But yeah, so they were drawn differently, we'll say that, and I don't know if I was a fan of it. obviously, you know, like other superheroes in other realms, like the females are drawn, you know, they might have a little bit of muscles, but they usually don't make them like, you know, bodybuilder looking. So it was kind of a different way to go at it. They've always made the men very muscular. I don't know. I guess it makes more sense, but yet it's kind of like she could probably beat me up, you know. Overall, what did I think? I thought it was entertaining for the most part, imaginative, a different retelling. There's a guy I watch on YouTube, Spectre Creative. I don't watch all his videos, just like any other YouTuber. I don't watch all their videos. I kind of pick and choose something that interests me. Just like, you know, any viewer of my channel. Does this interest you? Yes, no. Does, you know, I like to make the videos. You watch what you want to watch. I watch some of his videos, and, you know, he has a lot of the lore of He-Man on there. He's a big He-Man fan. He was one of the heads of marketing for the Masters of the Universe Classics line, and he has a lot of backstory about why everything is the way it is. And he says, like, well, why is this He-Man different? Well, it's just a different version of it, a different retelling. Kind of like when they come out with a new Spider-Man line, it doesn't carry on with like Tobey Maguire. It's like a new branch off. There might be different little things in it, or a new Batman series, like, you know, new series of movies. It's just a different version of He-Man. You might like it, you might not. You know, there's a new CGI version for the kids. I'm not sure exact title of that. I think it's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, kind of like the old one, or just Masters of the Universe. I'm not sure, but that one's definitely geared towards kids, because that's what keeps the line going. There's not probably enough adult collectors or ones interested in that to keep the line going. So if they tweak He-Man a little bit, appeals to kids, you know, change some characters, like Orko's a robot, I believe. I haven't watched any of them. You know, the He-Man looks way different. If they do stuff like that, then maybe the kids will like it, you know. But that's all, like, my thoughts on it. Overall, pretty good. Would I recommend it? If you're a He-Man fan, yes. It's good enough to watch. Yes, definitely is. Which series did I like best? You know, the original series, the 2000 series, or the newest one? I would have to rank them. I actually like the newer version, or the 2000 version, probably the best, because it had a usually a progressive story in it, kind of like the new Thundercats, like the newest Thundercats, kind of had like a progressive story. The original I also would put second, because that's what I remember, that's I'm nostalgic for. But a lot of those you could watch an episode, and if you missed the next episode, you could pick up the third episode, and it still makes sense. And then I would say third would have to be the Masterverse Revelations, what I'm talking about. I would say that one's probably my third favorite. And then obviously I think I've only watched one episode of the New Adventures of He-Man. I wasn't a fan. The animation wasn't good. Skeletor was kind of like, almost like he had the technovirus in that one, because he had to like become half cyborg to live because he was injured. And you know, I didn't like the look of the cartoon, of how He-Man looked. Too sci-fi for me. Wasn't a fan of it. And then also the new, I can't rank the new CGI He-Man because I haven't seen it. It might be good, the show might be good, but it doesn't appeal to me. Again, it's meant for kids. But that's kind of where it sits with me. And then if you count the movie from, I think it was 89 or 90, with Dolph Lundgren, not sure. You know, he fought Rocky Balboa, that guy. I would not rank that very high either, because that was heavily sci-fi, and it was a big departure from the He-Man I knew. There wasn't enough nostalgia factor, enough roots in there to make He-Man recognizable. It was way different. You know, I wasn't a big fan. That's all I got for this one. Leave any comments that you want about He-Man. Like, do you like He-Man? Which was your favorite version of He-Man? Did you watch the series? Did you like it? Anything like that, that's fine. And I'll get back to you. And until the next video, have a good night and take care.